morning. Thank you for tuning in and joining us this morning. This is Freedom Monday on Synergy TV, Caribbean Showtime TV in Canada, U97.5 FM radio, and I want to welcome you to Freedom Mondays. The quote of the day is from Fab India Export, and we go to that now. Find a group of people who challenge and inspire you. Spend a lot of time with them and it will change your life. Very good advice, I think, and it comes to you from Fab India Expo. Let's have a message. Thank you for tuning in again. Thank you for staying with us. This is Freedom Monday on U97.5 and Synergy TV, Caribbean Showtime TV in Canada. Welcome to all of you and thank you for listening. I have a special guest this morning. He is Professor Hamid Ghani. He is a political scientist by profession. He has taught for many years at the University of the West Indies. He tends to specialize on constitutional matters. He also focuses on parliamentary matters. And he's a very, very knowledgeable person in the field of government and politics. So we want to talk to him today about the local government elections and the result and its implications for political behavior going forward. I've made that a very general kind of discussion because we are looking at this a few weeks after the elections are over, so we're not going to look at numbers and those kinds of things. They may come up, but that is not the primary consideration. We're going to look at the results as they are, what has come out of the results, what people have said, etc., and what is likely to take place because local government election is over, but general elections are due in 2025. So we are going to focus on that. Before I go to Professor Ghani, I just want to remind you that our sponsors for Freedom Monday are Docks Engineering Works Limited, Lifetime Solutions, and Friends of Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so we go on now to Professor Ghani, and let me say good morning to Professor Ghani.
Morning.
How are you?
Very well, thanks.
It's been a while since we spoke like this.
Yes.
All right, we may talk from time to time, but we haven't spoken on matters like these in this kind of forum for a long time. So let me start by asking you, now that the local government elections are over and the dust has settled, what are some of your reflections on it? Because I know you would have gone through every little detail, because I know you are a person like that. And what do we need to take note of?
Well, I think one of the things that struck me was the extent to which the PNM turnout was as low as it was, which suggested to me that a lot of their supporters may have stayed at home.
Yeah, disenchanted.
And I also noted that the UNC base came out in fairly large numbers, the base primarily, because they contested only 110 seats, but they won the popular vote, notwithstanding the fact that the PNM contested 141 seats and the UNC contested 110, but the UNC won the popular vote.
Yes.
So that suggests to me that the UNC base turned out in a faithful manner and supported the party. The other thing that struck me, of course, was the coalition arrangement or the alliance arrangement between the UNC and the NTA, Gary Griffiths and NTA. And I think that the fact that they were able to win an alderman in the Digger Martin Corporation really indicated that there is a level of support, even though they only contested 8 of the 10 seats in Digger Martin. So that that suggests that there is support for the NTA in an area where the UNC has traditionally been weak, which is west of Barataria, San Juan. There are 7 constituencies in general elections that are west of Barataria, San Juan, and the UNC has not performed well in those areas, but the NTA was able to capture votes. And I think, too, the fact that the NTA-UNC alliance were actually contesting against each other in the context of the proportional representation arrangements, because once you put up a first-past-the-post candidate in a corporation, you are obliged to put up a list of aldermen, and it ended up that the UNC list was competing against the NTA list in the areas where they were contesting some of the seats and trying to tactically avoid each other on first-past-the-post, but they weren't avoiding each other on proportional representation.
Yes, of course.
And so that was significant because the NTA got an alderman in Digger Martin. What I also noted that did cause me some surprise was that in the San Juan Lavantil Corporation, where there are 14 seats, the UNC contested 8 and the NTA contested 6. Now in 2019, the UNC contested all 14 and only got one alderman. In this election, they contested 8 of the 14 seats and they won 2 aldermen. That suggests to me that there was a very high turnout for the UNC in the 8 that they contested in San Juan Lavantil. And therefore, that tells a story on the ground because that is traditionally PNM territory.
Okay, what you think is happening though, because you are seeing energy in the UNC base, you're seeing withdrawal from the PNM hardcore. Is something happening other than the fact that there might be a feeling that we want to vote against the government?
Well, I think that these elections were not really scheduled to be held until December of 2023 or even by March of 2024, so that the government would have gone past its midterm. The government is at midterm now. The elections were forced by virtue of a court matter led by Anand Ramlogan Senior Counsel. And eventually they succeeded at the Privy Council, and it forced an election to be held in an unscheduled manner when the government was not prepared to have an election.
Yeah.
So that starts the process, and then from there we are able to see now that the electorate responded in the circumstances. I suspect that within the PNM there is some disenchantment with policy performance in the post-COVID-19 situation. The UNC was facing a situation where there was an internal rebellion building against the leader, and that there is some disenchantment with the leader. I think that her strategic move to embrace Gary Griffith in his post-Commissioner of Police incarnation breathed a different set of life into the party by going back to a coalition arrangement when she rejected it in 2020. So I think strategically she threw herself a lifeline, because if she had done poorly in these local government elections, the pressure would have built for her to go. As it stands now, she's in a much more confident place, and she's already talking about preparing for the 2025 general election and to lead the party into the next election, and talking about choosing candidates from now and so on. So that the entire dynamic changed by virtue of 2 things, an unscheduled election and the alliance with Gary Griffith.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but you think that the results of the election and the performance of the PNM kind of triggered this post-cabinet retreat more than any other consideration?
It's difficult to say, because I would have thought that what would have also come on from that would have been considerations of a cabinet reshuffle. that was also being floated around. And one of the logical conclusions of having a cabinet retreat might have been to have a cabinet reshuffle afterwards based on the discussion. The fact that the Prime Minister has seen it fit not to make any changes and to continue as he is going means, therefore, that he's prepared to give his current ministers in their portfolios another try as they move in from 2023 going to 2024. And then he may want to make some changes prior to the election, if at all. So I think he has rolled the dice. He's taken a chance. Public opinion is saying one thing. He has recast it in the context of social media, making requests for cabinet changes. But I think that it's much more than social media. And I think that he has decided that he doesn't have to cave to public opinion or to whatever is going on social media, which may not be scientific. But I think at the end of the day, he has decided to gamble with going with the current arrangement, and he's obviously going to hope for some kind of results.
You think that there's a dynamic at work there? I mean, is there a little tension about Dr. Rowley's leadership of the PNM following the local government elections? And would that tension have kind of prompted the cabinet meeting so that the cabinet retreat, so that he may have brought people together to talk? And in that dynamic, the Prime Minister would not want to have a cabinet reshuffle to cause any further tensions, so to speak, or dissatisfaction within the cabinet. I know I'm speculating here, but I'm asking the question.
Well, I mean, it's a reasonable question to ask because he doesn't want any instability in the party.
That's what I thought.
And he therefore has to balance performance versus party, and it's a dicey situation. Also, I think he does not want to be seen to be reacting to what the local government result has shown.
Yes.
So that he doesn't want to appear reactionary. So that he's trying to go to this budget with the same team of ministers, and the hope is that after the budget and the priorities are laid out for the next year, we're going to hope that these ministers will perform.
Okay, we've got to take a break now to look at the ads, and what I'm going to do now is mention those sponsors, and they are Docs Engineering, Works Limited, Lifetime Solutions, and Fens of Trinidad and Tobago. Will we go to the ads? I guess not. So we will continue the discussion then, and we talked about the PNM, we talked about the government, and Dr. Rowley, the dynamics with the cabinet ministers. And what about the UNC? I mean, you said that the leader of the UNC, Mrs. Bissessa, has kind of consolidated and has, in a sense, put the leadership question to rest. Do you think that issue has been put to rest, or is there a continuing restlessness within the UNC?
Well, there's a continuing restlessness with certain elements within the UNC who would like to see a change, but she has managed to survive over these years, and I think that the next general election most probably is her last chance. And if this doesn't work out, then I think that she will have to call it a day. The reality of this is that the coalition arrangement with Gary Griffith, I think, has given her a new lease on life and has re-energized even some elements in the party, because among her critics, I noted that some of the critics, welcomed, for example, the return of Jack Warner, and others, who were still criticizing, so that she has managed to fracture that body of opinion that was opposed to her, and that will give her another opportunity to be able to, make some kind of survival mode tactic to be able to keep on going. But this is it for her. I mean, after the next election, that's it. I mean, the local government election might have been a time for her to either decide if she was going now, but she has pushed the day of decision back further.
Yeah, well, that has been the issue of from the critics, which is that yes, she can lead, she can hold on to the party, but can she win? And I mean, it's a question that keeps recurring. All right, we will take a break now, and we will go to the ads.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Lifetime Solutions, manufacturer of metal roofing, panels, framing, guttering, and related products. Located lot number 26, Omera Industrial Estate in Arima. Give us a call, 646-5813 for further information. Lifetime Solutions. Give us a call today.
It's savings and big discounts when you shop at Fens nationwide. Upgrade your home or treat yourself to something special. Enjoy store-wide savings on furniture, appliances, electronics, bedroom, and so much more when you shop at Fens of Marbella, Chaguanas, Pinal, and Piaco. Visit us in-store for more information or call 650-FENS, that's 650-3367. Or check us out on Facebook, Fens of Trinidad and Tobago, serving generations.
India in Style Expo has declared its final extension. Located just behind KFC next to Fun Station Laramine, will definitely be closing on Monday 2nd October. South Trinidad, shop for Ganesh Utsav, Navratri and Diwali. Enjoy delicious vegetarian Indian food. India in Style Expo, located behind KFC next to Fun Station Laramine from 11 AM to 9 PM. We're also open on weekends.
Bollywood Garba Night at the Mid-Center Mall Dome on the 14th of October. Garba, Bollywood Music and Dance Festival. Best 3 dancers win big. Tickets for flat $100 starts 7 p.m. until late. Mark the date, Sunday 14th October, first time ever in Trinidad. Bollywood Garba Night on the 14th of October at the Mid-Center Mall Dome.
Super quality supermarket, best quality and great prices. Get your fresh fruits, vegetables and meats. It's a one-stop shop for the most affordable groceries, baby items, kitchen supplies, bathroom accessories, car care supplies, pet food, toys and lots more, all at Super Quality Supermarket. Wide aisles, fully air-conditioned and secured parking. 3 locations nationwide: Couva Car Park, Couva, 98 Endeavour Road, Chaguanas, and 47 Tissue Drive, Trin-City. Super Quality Supermarket.
Welcome to OATS, Optimal Alternative Treatment Solutions Limited, the future of healthcare, which provides full body scans, which we detect and treat cancer, tumors, all heart conditions, cysts, fibroids, dementia, Parkinson's, just to name a few. No radiation and medication is not needed. If you are tired of getting no results, call us at 354-4459 or 356-7226.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You are watching and listening to Freedom Monday. I am Bo Tiwari and my guest this morning is Professor Hamid Ghani. Professor Ghani, I want to keep this kind of continuing combat between the PNM and the UNC for a minute, because I want to address this issue of how people will behave now that the elections are over. Do you think that the relationship between NTA and the UNC will continue, Jack Warner's presence will continue, and that is perhaps the build-up to a larger and wider coalition? And how do you think the PNM, with incumbency on their side, even though they might not have done so well in the local government election, is going to, how are they going to conduct themselves and how are they going to behave going forward in this 2-year period before the election? What do you think is likely to happen?
Well, I think that the first thing that I've noticed is that the UNC has become a little more aggressive in terms of its communications. The party had really drifted away, had no real communication strategy. The communications dimension of it was poor. And the return of Jack Warner, I think, has had some kind of impact on strategy and communication. And in that context, I'm noticing a difference. And I may be wrong, but I suspect that the re-emergence of Jack Warner, together with the dissolution of the ILP and his reinsertion back into the UNC with whatever organizational skills that he brings, and he has formidable organizational skills, will change the dynamic of the UNC's strategy and communications. The presence of Gary Griffith gives the look of someone who was seen in the public eye as an ace crime fighter, who was hard done by in a process in which the Prime Minister said he didn't want him back as Commissioner of Police. So that is a flashpoint for their confrontation, and the fact that the crime situation has deteriorated to the point where it has obviously validated the presence of Gary Griffith, so that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa may have made a very good tactical move to embrace Gary Griffith and Jack Warner, and calculated that notwithstanding Jack Warner's legal difficulties on the international scene and the local extradition situation, that appears not to have impacted negatively on the party's fortunes among the UNC base. The challenge for the UNC is to go beyond the base to be able to embrace a wider electoral element, and that obviously is a strategy they're going to have to work on. For the PNM, the strategy, I think, is one whereby the continued leadership by Dr. Rowley may be a source of some disenchantment to some PNM supporters who would like to see a change in the leadership. Now, if you get a situation where Dr. Rowley decides to walk away before the next election, and the PNM have a new leader, and the UNC continue to have Mrs. Prasad Bisesa, the dynamic could be very different. The PNM with a new leader is going to be a very powerful force in the electoral politics of this country going into a general election. If Dr. Rowley stays, leads the party into the next general election, and the UNC has Mrs. Prasad Bisesa with a coalition ally in Gary Griffith and the re-emergence of Jack Warner, you may have a very close election battle, much like what we had in the local government situation. But I think that the PNM with a new leader is going to be a far more formidable force for the next election than the PNM with Dr. Rowley again leading the party into electoral battle.
But I mean, that is a curious thing that you're saying, though, which is that Dr. Rowley is kind of a liability to his party at the present time. But a change of leadership in the PNM can make Mrs. Bisesa, who has recovered slightly, a liability in her party as you go forward.
Well, that's why I think she has made the first move to go back to the coalition model, because the coalition model is where she had her greatest success. When she decided in 2020, no coalition, we're going it alone, we saw what happened.
Yeah.
But then the other thing too is the selection of candidates in the UNC. In the last election, the selection of candidates was below par. and the party went in without some frontliners who would have been able to have a reach beyond the UNC base into the more independent-minded voter base, which would have made a difference. Notwithstanding that, when you disaggregate the results from the 2020 general election, the UNC won a majority of votes in Trinidad, separate Tobago. They won a majority of the votes in Trinidad, won 19 seats, and the PNM won 20 seats, notwithstanding the fact that the UNC got more votes than the PNM in Trinidad only. When you add Tobago, that is where the PNM got the majority, because the UNC didn't contest in Tobago. The PNM were able to add 2 seats in Tobago to their 20 in Trinidad to give them 22, and it gave them the popular vote. But the Tobago situation has become very different now. And the PNM suffered a major defeat in the Tobago House of Assembly elections in December of 2025. It was a cascading defeat starting with January 2025 with a 6-6 tie and ending in December 2025 with a 14-1 defeat.
Yeah.
The Tobago situation has become dicey because of the breakup in the PDP,
Yes.
and the fact that the PNM is trying to reorganize. But I think the big issue that the Tobago will have to address is the autonomy issue. And as long as that remains unresolved, I think the PNM has an uphill battle in Tobago to try to convince people that they're really serious about autonomy.
Yeah, in Tobago, the Tobago nationalism issue is a big issue.
Tobago nationalism is rising.
Yeah, because of the autonomy issue. And it would be very, very difficult, I think, to reverse that process.
Well, you see, I think too that Mr. Duke has realized that his attempt to cross the water and to become the mayor of Port of Spain and make the investment in Trinidad, it failed, and it failed badly. And right after the election, his first reaction was to reach out to Farley Augustin and colleagues and say, let's talk, let's try and make up. Well, I don't think that's going to happen, but that suggests weakness to me.
Yeah.
Because if he was strong and he was able to do it, he would go on his own in Tobago, but he knows that he can't go on his own. And he's in a curious place. He's an enemy of the PNM in Trinidad, and he's an ally of the PNM in Tobago. And it is a curious place to be in.
Yes, it makes you wonder about politics sometimes. Is it that people do whatever is necessary? I mean,
well, I think in his case, you know, he started his entry into formal politics in the 2015 general election when he ran as an independent candidate in Tobago East and did not lose his deposit. That was significant. He did not lose his deposit as an independent candidate in Tobago East. Then he formed the PDP, and they were able in the 2017 THA election to win 2 seats in Tobago, and they lost a third one by 5 votes. So they had a presence back in the assembly. And then by 2025, by 2021, they had indicated that, you know, even though Farley Augustin was the deputy political leader, he would be their candidate for chief secretary. And they got the 6-6 tie, and then they got the 14-1 loss.
Win, yes.
But I think that the PNM made a fundamental mistake in Tobago with the removal of Kelvin Charles, who was the chief secretary. There was no need to move Kelvin Charles. There was no way that the new leader of the PNM in Tobago, Tracy Davidson Celestin, who got that in 2020, would have become the chief secretary because she was not an elected member. So she was going to become a councillor in the assembly. They moved out the health secretary to make her the health secretary. And as a consequence of that, the removal of Kelvin Charles left a sour taste in the mouth of many PNM people in Tobago, and even people who are not PNM members. So that with 7 months to go, they installed an assistant secretary, Ansel Dennis, into the post of chief secretary, and then attempted to sell the idea of Tracy Davidson Celestin leading the party into the THA election. It ended up 6-6 in January, and then by December, it ended up 14-1. So the Tobago situation, I think, was a PNM self-inflicted wound.
When I come back, I'm going to ask you 2 questions. One is there any place for an alternative party to the PNM and the UNC in the politics of Trinidad and Tobago as you see it now? That's the first thing I'm going to ask you. And the second thing that I want to ask you really is, well, I'll wait on your answer before I ask you the other question.
Sure.
Okay, so we take a break now. Back to Master Control.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Lifetime Solutions, manufacturer of metal roofing, panels, framing, guttering, and related products. Located lot number 26, Omera Industrial Estate in Arima. Give us a call, 646-5813 for further information. Lifetime Solutions. Give us a call today.
It's savings and big discounts when you shop at Fens nationwide. Upgrade your home or treat yourself to something special. Enjoy store-wide savings on furniture, appliances, electronics, bedroom, and so much more when you shop at Fens of Marbella, Chagonas, Pinal, and Piaco. Visit us in-store for more information or call 650-FENS, that's 650-3367. Or check us out on Facebook, Fens of Trinidad and Tobago, serving generations.
Looking for an adventure? Then come to Massa Nature Park. There are scenic spaces for picnics, adults and kids swimming pools, apartments for rent, huts for cooking, liming, and beautiful nature trails for hikes. Business hours 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Conveniently located at Brasso, Grand Couva. Contact us at 777-4531 or 335-0183. Let the fun begin.
Tile Expression Limited, the #1 leader in tiles. Large stock, unbeatable prices, wide variety of porcelain tiles, ceramic tiles, wall and floor tiles, residential and commercial, granite and quartz countertops. Best quality from Spain, Italy, Brazil, India and China. Tile Expression Limited, conveniently located Monroe Road, Kunapir. Telephone 693-0015 or 223-TILE.
Have you been diagnosed with stroke, Parkinson's disease, dementia, or migraine headaches? Do you have weakness of your feet, hands, or face? Are you having trouble with your memory? Do you keep forgetting where you place your keys? Do your hands shake? Are your muscles stiff? Do you have bad headaches? Then the solution is Synapse Medical Services Limited. The consultant physician at Synapse Medical Services is a UK-trained specialist in internal medicine with Canadian training in general neurology and stroke neurology. To book an appointment now, WhatsApp 367-9368. That is 367-9368 and be on your way to a speedy recovery.
Thank you very, very much for staying with us. This is Freedom Monday. I am Bo Tiwari, and my guest is Professor Hamid Ghani. We are coming to you on Synergy TV, Caribbean Showtime TV Canada, and U97.5. And we are being sponsored by Docs Engineering Works Limited, Lifetime Solutions, and FENS of Trinidad and Tobago. Professor Ghani, I want to ask you this question, which is there any room, given the politics as you see it, the way it's playing out, all the uncertainties that you mentioned, the whole range of dynamics from Tobago to Trinidad, from UNC to PNM, etc. Is there any room for any new party to emerge? I mean, we had a situation in which PEP, besides the NTA, we talked about the NTA, but you can talk about it again, in which PEP got about 6,000 votes. I mean, do you see any prospects for a party like PEP or any other party that might come on the scene? And I'm really asking that because of the large numbers of people who stayed away from the election, 70% almost. And that seems to have been a pattern. I mean, you can't really judge from local government because general elections are different. But still, for 70% to stay away is a lot. Mm-hmm. What is your feeling about an alternative party to the two traditional parties, first of all? And secondly, why are people who stay home behaving that way? What are they looking for?
Well, I think, first of all, the issue of the third party is an old debate. It's been going on for some time. The system of government that we have and the electoral system that we have will militate against it, and always has. You've had credible third parties like the ONR in 1981, and then you had the three-way contest of 1991, where there was a fracture in the NAR, and you had the NAR and the UNC and the PNM, and we saw what happened with that outcome. Then we had 2007, COP, UNC, PNM, again, you see what is happening. So that the electoral system and the system of government that we operate does not facilitate a third party. The only time it worked was when A.N.R. Robinson made a calculated gamble in 1995 to give a message that he would make the difference. And he contested 19 seats. So he engineered that there would have been a 17-17-2, and he gambled, and the gamble was a perfect spot-on gamble, winning 2 seats in Tobago and hoping by not contesting certain areas and contesting in others would create a 17-17 outcome in Trinidad at the time, when there were 34 seats in Trinidad and 2 in Tobago. So as a third party coming from Tobago, he was able to insert himself into the process and to engineer a coalition. That is a work of art that requires a particular level of leadership and caliber of leadership. But when you look at how this coalition arrangement emerged, it emerged out of people like Basdeo Pandey, A.N.R. Robinson, and Carl Hudson Phillips agreeing to have some kind of accommodation in the 1983 local government election after the 81 debacle. And then you move forward. But leadership is critical. The stature of people like Carl Hudson Phillips, A.N.R. Robinson, Basdeo Pandey. You just can't pick up a party and just put yourself forward as a leader. You have to have some kind of track record or some kind of public image. Gary Griffith had a track record that he could run on as a commissioner of police. He was given that by Rowley. Rowley says that's the one big mistake that he made in his life. And he did make a mistake because he turned Gary Griffith into a credible political figure. And that showed itself in the election. The other leaders have not had a track record. They haven't had any kind of involvement in government, so that you don't have something that the electorate can look to. The biggest challenge is the issue of the electoral system. Now, the reforms that were made by bringing in proportional representation in 2013 for replacing the nominated system for aldermen meant that you were injecting into the process a different kind of electoral system. And we have seen now that by putting a different kind of electoral system, other parties can win votes, because under proportional representation, no votes are wasted. Under first past the post, thousands and thousands of votes are wasted.
Yes.
So that even if you live in a stronghold constituency of the other party and you want to vote, and it's in a local government area, that vote may not win you a councillor in the area where you live, but it will win you an alderman by virtue of the fact that you tally up all the votes for that party in a regional corporation. But I think understanding the system is also something that is important. The Wooding Commission recommended a mixed system.
Yes, that's
the mixed system was introduced for proportional for local government in 2013. We're now in our fourth local government election with this, and there's still people in this country who do not understand the systemic change.
Yes.
So that in itself tells a story.
Well, you could have seen it in the way things
emerged. The way that the seats were contested. You might have had a different result, you know, if an entire corporation was handed over to one party and not having this kind of, you know, 8-2 and 8-6 and you know, 5-1 and
yeah,
so
you
on.
could have ended up with a majority of all, not a majority, but at least half.
The aldermen would make the difference.
Yes, of course. Well, we're talking about local government. I mean, the thing on the agenda now that the local government election is over is local government reform, the execution of that process. Do you think that will happen? Do you think the process will be slowed? Do you think there will be a lot of tensions? Do you think it will be smooth sailing? What do you think is going to happen now?
I'm not very hopeful that the central government is prepared to start yielding all these powers to local authorities. The central government has an appetite for control, and they pretty much like what has happened in Tobago, the reforms that were proposed for Tobago, we've seen where the central government still wants to call the shots. So that the business of devolution, decentralization, deconcentration, whatever words you want to use, with regard to this, the central government has an appetite for control, and I'm not seeing that ministers are keen to start surrendering that kind of control to local government corporations to allow them to be able to exercise the kind of control that they want to have. At the same time, you also have the question of accountability, financial accountability and other types of accountability. We have to also be able to look at that. So I am, because of how the government has dragged its feet with regard to the Tobago autonomy situation, because they didn't get their party winning in Tobago. If they had won the Tobago House of Assembly election, they most probably would have gone through with it in the parliament. The bills are now lying idle in the parliament, being saved from one session to the next session to the next session. Nothing is going on. And that tells me that with the 7-7 outcome in local government elections, I'm not so sure that the central government is ready to hand over that kind of control to local government authorities. And I suspect that the resistance for most of that will come from inside the civil service itself, more so than the political directorate. But that combination of the two, you really have to have a meeting of the minds and a real political will to say we want to have this kind of devolution of authority and giving all this autonomy away to all of these entities. And I'm not seeing it happening in this term of parliament.
Why do you think strong resistance will come from the public servants?
They're accustomed. There's a bureaucratic orthodoxy in the way that business is done. And they're accustomed to doing things in a particular way. To now challenge them and tell them that they have to yield some of that to other persons, and that the CEOs in corporations now become far more powerful operators and chairmen and so on, and setting up all these executive councils, and that's changing the whole dynamic of how power is orchestrated. And then you have very powerful elements behind the scenes who are the so-called financiers. They have certain interests, and their interests may not be suited by having to make these kinds of changes. There might be some who might think, well, okay, it allows them an opportunity to engage a different set of stakeholders to be able to further their interests. But I think the lock-hold control over the system is one that I'm not seeing the central government having an appetite to let go just yet.
You see, but let's take it from a political point of view. Leave the public servants for a minute. Don't you think it would be a really bold-faced, about-face for the central government to resist the transfer of some autonomy as prescribed by the law to local government and to allow it to function as it is meant to function?
Well, they have to proclaim, and that's where it lies. So the central government, the cabinet is the one that holds the key to that. Until it's proclaimed, nothing is happening. So the political directorate has to make a conscious decision. We're going to proclaim, and this changes.
The Prime Minister talked about proclamation yesterday, but he did not indicate.
Well, I mean, he talked about it the week before when he had the press conference.
Yes, that's right. He talked about it, and he talked about it at the press conference. You're right. Anyway, we will break now for more commercials, and we come back in a minute. Please stay with us.
Are you ready to own your own home? But worried about time, money, and construction? We handle it all. With Docs, you can sleep in your dream. Make a down payment of $100K or $150K and we'll build a 2 or 3 bedroom home on your unused land. A home is an investment into your future, so let's help you invest wise, invest well. Payment plans available. We're only a call away.
Lifetime Solutions, manufacturer of metal roofing, panels, framing, guttering, and related products. Located lot number 26, Omera Industrial Estate in Arima. Give us a call, 646-5813 for further information. Lifetime Solutions. Give us a call today.
It's savings and big discounts when you shop at Fens nationwide. Upgrade your home or treat yourself to something special. Enjoy store-wide savings on furniture, appliances, electronics, bedroom, and so much more when you shop at Fens of Marbella, Chaguanas, Pinal, and Piaco. Visit us in-store for more information or call 650-FENS, that's 650-3367. Or check us out on Facebook, Fens of Trinidad and Tobago, serving generations.
India in Style Expo has declared its final extension. Located just behind KFC next to Fun Station La Romaine, will definitely be closing on Monday 2nd October. South Trinidad, shop for Ganesh Utsav, Navratri and Diwali. Enjoy delicious vegetarian Indian food. India in Style Expo, located behind KFC next to Fun Station La Romaine from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're also open on weekends.
Bollywood Garba Night at the Mid-Center Mall Dome on the 14th of October. Garba, Bollywood Music and Dance Festival. Best 3 dances win big. Tickets for flat $100 starts 7 p.m. until late. Mark the date, Sunday 14th October, first time ever in Trinidad. Bollywood Garba Night on the 14th of October at the Mid-Center Mall Dome.
Passage to Asia, the award-winning restaurant and banquet suite located in the heart of Chaguanas, the best fusion food restaurant in Trinidad and Tobago. From the second you enter to the moment you leave, you will be treated like royalty. Come, dine in luxury and enjoy the finest combination of Asian cuisine prepared by skilled and qualified chefs at Passage to Asia. The experience is truly unforgettable, perfect for families, couples, and large groups. Passage to Asia, located at St. Ives Street, Chaguanas. Contact 672-2701. Also, visit us on Facebook and Instagram.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is Freedom Monday on 97.5 FM and Synergy TV, and my name is Bo Tiwari. My guest today is Professor Hamid Ghani from the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we didn't explore the other question, Professor Ghani, which is that what's happening to the population that they are, what can I say, not too enamored of the politics of either of the two major parties or of the other aspirants that might show themselves? What are people looking for? Is something missing in the politics or what?
I think people are looking for hope. They know the situation is grim. The crime situation is grim. The economic prospects in the aftermath of COVID-19 are not particularly bright. The country was fortunate that there was the war between Russia and Ukraine, which may have sent energy prices up much higher than they might have been. There is still uncertainty, global uncertainty with regard to what is going on. Prime Minister says that the government has managed to control inflation. But the reality is you have all these wage negotiations that remain unsettled. And I think the population wants to see that there is a way forward, that there is some kind of hope on the horizon. But what the population needs to also understand is that the electoral system that we have and the system of government that we have is not conducive to power sharing with third parties and fourth parties. It's a two-party system, a government and an opposition. It is designed to be divisive. Divisiveness is required for the system to work. And therefore, when you take things like the president's call for reaching across the aisle and putting aside party rivalries, that is unrealistic. It's nice, it's noble. It's totally unrealistic. And the population may also want to see something like that. But I am not seeing that we're going to be changing our system of government anytime soon to facilitate a system where one party or the other will lose hegemony and have to be able to negotiate with third parties, smaller third parties, for power.
But is there, I mean, are we, with so many people staying away from the polls and searching for something else, your system not allowing for more than two parties at any one time, it being so divisive and partisan and so on, is it that the country has reached a stage where there's a kind of post-political party consciousness, a post-partisan consciousness, and all this quest for parties to reach across the aisle in the parliament, to be more cooperative, to be able to put national, what can I say, national priorities before partisan or sectarian considerations. I mean, is it that the consciousness of the population has reached a point where it is this kind of partisan politics, but the parties themselves, for very survival and because of the culture of politics in the country, cannot really escape what has been the traditional culture of party politics?
Yeah, the traditional culture of party politics is hegemony. Yeah. And the quest for hegemony. Whoever wins a majority of seats wins control of power, and that's how it goes. In 1974, when the Wooding Constitution Commission presented its report, it recommended a mixed system of first past the post and proportional representation with equal numbers. And they recommended the abolition of the Senate, a single house that would have 36 elected MPs on first past the post and 36 MPs chosen by proportional representation. Dr. Williams recognized that that was going to be a situation in which the PNM would no longer be dominant in the society. And he shut it down. He called it a dagger at the heart of the PNM, and he knew what he was saying because his own power would have been gone. People would vote differently, and therefore the allocation and proportional representation means that no votes would be wasted for those other seats, so that you would have, these 36 at the time between the government and the opposition, and then whatever would happen with the 36 proportional representation is where third, fourth, and fifth parties would come into the picture. That would have changed the political dynamic. The PNM would no longer have been in a hegemonic, dominant position, and as a consequence of that, nothing was going to happen. Well, I don't see anything happening as long as we continue with the same constitutional arrangements and electoral arrangements. Local government has given a slight peep into what could happen if you have proportional representation, and that's on a minority basis. Every corporation has only 4 aldermen. But you see where parties can win no seats in a corporation, but they win 1 or 2 aldermen in a corporation because the votes of the voters are not wasted. And therefore, you're going to have to convince those who really control the society, the powerful financiers and powerful corporate interests behind the scene that fund the political parties, have to be convinced that the time has come to make a change. So some of them are beginning to speak out. They're talking about the need to change the constitution and so on. I've noted some comments, and sometimes I wonder if this isn't really the confessions of 1%ers. But the reality is that, you know, if we're going to get a change, you have to start with the systemic changes, because behavioral change is going to be conditioned by systemic realities. Yes. And if the system is going to continue to provide for two-party system, government and opposition, then you're going to see what is going to happen. The architecture of parliament is designed for confrontation, you know, government and opposition.
But, you know, in the conversation here, what has been revealed really, what has come up in a very, very stark fashion is the problem of unwillingness to change. Mm-hmm. Because if you say that despite the law, which has not yet been proclaimed, it would be very, very difficult for the central government to concede the powers of local government.
Yes.
If you are seeing a situation in which the Tobago nationalism, which has manifested itself in a bill for an autonomous Tobago, which has not seen the light of day in Parliament in terms of a debate. If you're talking about resistance by the public servants to work with a lawfully prescribed local government body under new laws in the country, if you have a parliamentary system based on two-party combat and partisanship that does not seem to work for the national good and the national interest, and everybody is sitting and watching that, more people are not voting than voting, why would we then resist change? Systemic change I'm talking about.
Because the extent to which the people in that broad sense have power, it's
limited.
What, a 5-second interval every 5 years?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Right. So you have it for about 5 seconds every 5 years. The rest of the time is with the powerful interests, the corporate interests, the civil service interests, the various other powerful elements in the society. So that, you know, the issue of the extent to which people really have power, it also has to come from the fact that there is not a level of consciousness that you may have seen that was demonstrated in 1970. But I mean, the last time when this country saw a rise in the level of consciousness about people, and it exploded onto the streets. But one of the things that many of the corporate interests were afraid of was Afro-Indian unity. That was beginning to come out in that 1970s situation that was never allowed to materialize, and therefore we don't have that consciousness anymore. We have an education system that does not produce students with high levels of consciousness and awareness about what's going on in the country. And that is allowing us, therefore, to continue in a particular way that we are going. The demand for change or constitutional reform, there's no energy for constitutional reform among the general public. It might be among elites, academic, political, financial, and other elites in the society. But constitutional reform is not the mantra of the man on the street. And there's a reason for that, because they're not into that kind of level of public education
but
to
from
know.
Everything we have discussed there and all the issues that have come up, constitutional reform is a necessity.
That is a necessity. But there is no clarion call for it because the public is not making that clarion call. That's a few elites who are making that call. They know what's going on and they can see it. And those who are in the system and work the system and benefit from the system have no desire to make those changes.
Well, Professor Ghani, I want to thank you very, very much.
Thanks.
For discussing this morning with me the aftermath of local government, some of its consequences, and what are likely to be some of the issues going forward as we move to general election in 2 years. I want to thank you, listeners and viewers, for spending the time with us this morning. We've had a very, very good discussion. And next week, we are going to continue the discussion with Professor Ghani on another subject. And we hope that you will be riveted to the television and to the radio listening to us, because I assure you that it will be just as interesting and exciting as today. Thank you very much. I am Bo Tiwari. This is Freedom Monday on 97.5 FM and Synergy TV. Thank you very much for listening and watching.